Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm kind of going to be doing a story time, but it's a really important one. It's gonna take a while because I have a lot of points to make as I go along, so let me just get to the point. I am going to be sharing with you guys my personal experience with bullying. As I go through this story, I will be giving advice which is totally my opinion, to anyone who is being bullied, to schools on how to deal with bullying, to parents on how to see if your child is being bullied, and bystanders as well. There are a lot of people that could help the situation or could make the situation so much worse, and I experienced a lot of that. So I'm really just here to share my story, show people who are in any sort of similar situation. Just show you you're not alone, show you could get through this. Thank God today I'm okay. I don't know if I'm fully over it yet, but I'm good, I'm happy, and you will get through this. So without further ado, let's just get into my story. Oh, I should mention I did a lot of research on this topic because I want to make sure that I don't say anything wrong. What I ultimately found was that there is no current laws against bullying. It's not illegal to bully, and so I saw a recommendation on the Stop Bullying website that it's okay to give your own opinion on what you think should be right. And I will kind of be going through some of my research as I go through my story, but most of what I'm going to be talking about is fully opinion and just my personal experience. So my story happened mainly between 10th and 11th grade. My specific grade was very cliquey, if you will. I found that in 9th grade you kind of had to decide who your friends would be throughout high school. That's how it felt. Whoever became your friends in 9th grade was the group you would have to stick with, because as friendly as people would be to you, nobody would fully accept you into your friend group, or it was a very rare experience that would happen. So I just have to make that clear that that was something very specific to my class. So what happened was, in 9th grade I made what I thought to be an amazing group of friends. I used to talk to them all the time, hang out with them, go to their houses, they would come to mine. We would just do so much fun stuff together. And I was super excited to see them once 10th grade started. And when the year started, when 10th grade started, so I thought that I had this amazing group of friends, and for some reason I got this feeling that people just they weren't being so inclusive, basically. And that made me feel, I didn't like how that felt. Like I said, this mentality, these needed to be my friends throughout high school, so I needed them not to stop being my friend, kind of. I know it sounds weird, and I know it's so immature, but this whole story it's sad. It shouldn't have happened in 10th. It should never happen, but definitely by high school, grow up. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. Basically, as the year started, I noticed that the people who I thought were my friends were slowly but surely starting to stop being my friend, and that bothered me a lot. I felt very alone. Very often I would come home and just cry and feel like I had nobody. Something that I used to do to feel like I was still a part of them, which I think was so wrong of me, but I was so desperate for friendship, was I kind of used to just offer anything I could to these people. Thank God I did very well in school, so anytime there was a test, I would always offer these girls oh, do you want me to come over and study with you and help you and whatever. And that was pretty much the only time we hung out, when I was studying with them, or during lunchtime. I'd be if anybody ever said oh, who wants to go out to get some food, I would always offer myself, or if I had food, I would always ask everyone do you want, just so that if I'm sharing their food, they would talk to me, you know. I was badly desperate to have friendships. Like I didn't have any outside of school friendships because I didn't think I never thought I would need to make them. So that was something that was very hard for me. And I was having trouble accepting it. So this is basically how I accepted that these girls were no longer my friends. So I went to this girl's house. Let's give her a name just to like make storytelling easier. Let's say her name was Mary. So I go to Mary's house to study for a test. Of course, it was probably a math test. And we were studying together, and I couldn't hold it in, and I asked her like, is everything okay? Like, why do I feel like we're not friends anymore? And she just started giving me like dumb excuses, like, oh, you don't have a phone, so you can't really talk to us. Like, oh, like, of course we're still your friends. It's just like we're busy. Like, giving me excuses that, like, if you don't want to be my friend, like, it would have been easier if you were honest with me. I didn't have to figure it out on my own. So anyways, we were studying math, and somebody texted her something, and then she went onto her laptop and she started searching a movie. So I'm like, oh cool, what movie is that? And she's like, oh, this and this movie. I think it was like it was a cop movie. I remember a cop movie. It was a cop movie. Whatever. And she's like, yeah, a bunch of us are going to the movies, this and the, like, oh, we don't know when yet, but do you want to come? And I'm like, oh my god, maybe they do want to still be my friend. Maybe they do still want to hang out with me. And I was like so excited. I'm like, yeah, of course I want to come. And she's like, great, I'll let you know when it is and we'll all go to the movies. And I'm like so excited. Okay, I was crazy this whole time, like they still want to be my friend. And then like, the next day, like I saw a bunch of pictures. They all went to the movie without me. They didn't tell me about it, like when they were actually going, and they were all talking about it. And I'm like, I kind of accepted at that point, like, that they just didn't want me to be their friend anymore. So that is how I lost pretty much 99% of my friends. I did have one other friend in school. One other close friend in school, and this is where all the problems are about to begin. So let me just explain something though. The reason I had to preface it with this story of me losing my friends is the fact that I had nobody and no support with what was about to happen from friends made it that much harder to deal with. I was essentially alone. Okay. So now I'm gonna talk about this friend. Let's give her a name. Let's call her Anna, okay? So I had this one friend left, Anna, and because I didn't have any other friends, I just began to spend more and more time with her. As time went on, I started to realize that this girl might not actually be a good friend. So here are just some examples of how I realized that she was actually a really bad friend, and it was better for me to have no friends than to have this one friend. These are my personal experience stories. In a minute, I will go over some points that other people and other websites have made of some ways that you could figure out if you're thinking that a friend might not be so good for you, how you'll know. So like I mentioned before, like my school let us go out for lunch to get food. So anytime I wanted to go out and get food, I would be like, oh, hey, do you want to come with me and get food? And if she ever said no, it was kind of like I had to suck it up and deal with it. And that's fine. You don't have to come out and get food with me. Whatever, it's fine. I could go by myself. I could ask, like, there were other nice girls in my class. I just didn't have friends. There's a difference between nice people and people that aren't your friends. So like I could have asked other people, and I probably did, and I went out. But when she wanted to go out and get something to eat and I didn't want to go, then it was a problem. Then she would get really mad at me and make me feel like a terrible person for not wanting to go out with her. And situations like this happened all the time, where if it happened to me, it's like, okay, it's not a big deal. But if I did something that if I didn't want to do something that she wanted to do, all of a sudden it was a problem. And that sucked. So I don't know why I'm blinking on other examples of how I thought she was like a good friend, but like she had a rude personality. She would just say things that are like, she would like insult me and then like expect me to laugh it off. Like, you shouldn't be friends with somebody who is like, it's okay to make like a joke here and there. It's not okay, it's not good, but it's whatever, it's tolerable. But to be constantly told like hurtful things about yourself by your friend and then be expected to just accept that again and again, it's not cool. So let me just go over a couple of like main points that other people have said. Some examples are, they'll play the martyr card. For example, they'll say, you guys go ahead and do it without me. No one wants to do anything with me anyways. They'll kind of try to make you feel guilty. They'll use your weaknesses against you. Like I mentioned before, something that I became accustomed to doing was kind of like going out of my way for people, because I thought that that was the answer to not losing my friendships. And I found that very often she would try to use that against me, like almost force me into doing things I didn't want to do just because she knew that that was something that I would do. They jump to anger whenever challenged. Hell yeah. They lie. They won't admit to their faults. You don't feel like you're best around this person, which is also something like I found myself to not, like I never felt fully comfortable. Like, I called her my friend, but I was never comfortable around her. This person is only nice to you when they want something from you. You feel like a doormat around this person. This person won't acknowledge they hurt you, which is huge. Like, they don't listen to logic, they're hypocritical, etc. So those are just a couple of examples that I found online of how you could kind of figure out if a friend isn't really a good friend. So I thought about it a lot. I'm like, okay, you have no other good friends or friends, you just have acquaintances that are nice, and it's fine. I could talk to an acquaintance and that's fine, but you really need, especially at the high school age, a good group of friends, and that's something that I didn't have. So either I have no friends or one friend that is really not a good friend, and she's really not enhancing my life, and it's almost like worse than having no friends. So once I came to that conclusion, I kind of decided to nicely not be so close to her anymore and kind of let the relationship fall slowly. I didn't want to be mean to her. It's just, it wasn't healthy for me. So I would talk to her a little bit less, but because I didn't really have so many other friends, it was more like I would be alone more often, and that was fine with me. I came up to the conclusion that it was okay for me to have no friends than to have this one. Here is when it all went down, okay? She had asked me when we were good friends that the one thing that she wanted for her birthday was for me to bring her balloons into school. But we weren't really talking that much by the time her birthday came around, so I didn't feel obligated to get her balloons anymore. And she just was not okay with that. Like, she needed balloons for her birthday for whatever reason, and from that day on, she began to both physically and emotionally bully me. So basically that day when I didn't bring her balloons, she like went ballistic on me, she yelled at me, and that was kind of like the beginning of the end. So I kind of want to go over, according to the stopbullying.gov, if I'm getting this website wrong, I will link it down below. I will hopefully link all the websites that I did some of my research in, but again, this isn't really a research video, it's more like a personal experience video. I want to make that clear. So here's kind of the definition of bullying. Unwanted aggressive behavior, observed or perceived power imbalance, and repetition of behaviors or likelihood of repetition. The current definition acknowledges 2 modes and 4 types by which youth can be bullied or can bully others. The 2 modes of bullying include direct and indirect. In addition to these 2 modes, the 4 types of bullying include broad categories of physical, verbal, relational, and damage to property. So that's kind of just like one definition, and let me go over just a second one from a different website that I don't know offhand. Bullying is behavior by an individual or group repeated over time to intentionally hurt another individual, either physically or emotionally. Bullying can include name-calling, taunting, mocking, making offensive comments, kicking, hitting, taking belongings, producing offensive graffiti, gossiping, excluding people from groups, and spreading hurtful and unruthful rumors. So basically, that's your little, that's a definition of bullying. We're still in 10th grade, by the way. So ever since that day, these are some constant occurrences that happened over and over again. She happened to have been seated behind me in most of our classes, which was the worst thing that could have happened to me, because during class she would kick me like hard. Like one time, like it was so painful, like I made a noise and my teacher like yelled at me like, what's wrong? And I didn't know what to say. She would hurt me from behind my seat. She would curse me out in front of everyone, literally like say such hurtful things. Like I don't feel comfortable saying these words on my channel. In 10th grade, she was cursing me out for no reason. I didn't do anything to her. Like that should have allowed, like if she wanted to talk to me and be like, hey, we aren't talking anymore, like I thought you would bring me balloons, like why didn't you? Could have figured this whole situation out like right then and there. But yeah, she would like curse me out in front of everybody. She would, because she sat behind me, she had easy access to all my things, and she would literally take my bag and just throw my things around like all over the classroom. For the last day of school, like we had this sewing project that we had to finish. I had a sewing class, and we both had to finish our project, and we both needed the key to the sewing room. And so I knew that she was going to get it, so I had asked her like, hey, did you get the key? And she said no, or whatever she said. And so I went to the office and I'm like, hi, do you have the key? They're like, no, someone saw it. I go back to the sewing room, it's locked. So then like I go like searching for her, like I knew she had it, like whatever, it was like a wild goose chase. And she's like, oh no, this person, like she was literally sending me all over the place. The last destination, I was like, okay, let me check one more time the sewing room. And I saw her in there, and I walk in and she like cursed me out, and I'm just like, what? Like I remember her like trying, like she would intimidate me, so like she would try to intimidate me so much. Like I remember in another class that we had together, like someone asked her to like pass her a chair or something, and like she passed it over my head so close to my head that like I needed to duck. Like there were so many things that she did that were just so wrong. And so, as you could imagine, I began coming home really sad, and I would cry to my parents and beg them, like, please do something, please help me, like. But I spoke to my mother recently, and she said, like as I was deciding to come out with this video, and she's like, well, actually we didn't fully know that you were being bullied. You didn't really articulate that. It was more that you were telling us that you were just unhappy, and the reason that you were begging us, I begged my parents to switch my school. The reason I was doing that was because I was just unhappy. I didn't have friends. They actually did not know the full extent to like what was happening to me during school. And like when I was telling my mother, I'm like, she's like, you weren't really bullied. I'm like, what? Yeah, I was. Like this girl did this and this and this. And she's like, oh. Like, so something that I kind of really want to bring across is this: you're going through this situation, there are people that could help you. Don't hide any of the details, because I think that the more you share and the more serious they know the situation is, or hopefully it isn't, the more that people can help your specific situation. Like, I did tell more of the story to my, like, guidance counselor, and, like, we had a grade teacher that was in charge of helping us. I'm not explaining it for anyone who wouldn't know what that is. So basically that, I did tell them more of the story, but to my parents specifically, I left out a lot of the story, and so I feel like they could have helped me more if I explained to them better and told them more of what was going on. So now I got that out. Okay, so anyways, at some point, I don't know how that teacher that was in charge of helping us found out how unhappy I was, but she did one day call me out of class to talk to me, and once I started explaining the situation of how I had no friends, this whole other part inside of me of being bullied this whole time and not really telling anyone poured out of me. And she's like, oh my God, this girl is bullying you. And I told her, like, she sits right behind me in almost all my classes and whatever, and she's like, go to your teachers and tell them that I give you permission to switch your seat, because we did have a system of how we were seated. So here is where I'm going to be talking about how important bystanders are in a situation like this. This is really hard for me to talk about. I will never forget this day. Like, I just can't. Let me just say it. So I go over to my teacher. I'm like, listen, this teacher said that I have permission to switch seats. And she's like, okay, tell whoever, like, wherever you decide where you want to sit, go over to whoever you want, let them know that you want to switch seats. So basically, I go to the girl who I'm supposed to switch seats with, and I tell her, oh, the teacher said that we could switch seats, and her response was, it hurts so much. Why are you switching seats with me? Is it because you and Anna fight all the time? Because it's really funny. And I just, like, my response was like, no, I just need to switch seats to see the board better, or something dumb like that. And I just, at that point, I knew, like, I'm alone in this. I felt like I had nobody, and so something that I have to say is so important. Like, if you are witnessing constant bullying, you need to stand up for the person who's being bullied. Like, you have so much power in this situation. Something that I mentioned early on in this story is that I didn't have friends anymore, right? So that means I didn't have a support system. So if this girl was being mean to me, but I had a support system, I don't know what would have happened, but I believe I would have been fine. But regardless, at this point I realized people are watching what's happening. People see her cursing me out. They see her hurting me. They see what she's doing to me. And they think it's funny. It's not funny. It wasn't funny. I came home crying every night. I was miserable. So if you witness something like this, I literally urge you to help out whoever it is that's just on the downside. Like, it's hard to stand up to a bully when you don't have a support system, because you don't feel strong enough, even though you can be. Even though if you are being bullied, you do have the power to stand up to them. You could try. You should try, but it's hard, and I get why so many people don't. And so what I want to say is, like, if you're witnessing something like this, stand up for the person who is being hurt for no reason at all. And if there is a reason, it's not a good one. There is no good reason to be abused like this in any setting. So, moving forward, kind of at that moment, I realized that I felt stuck. I felt like there was no way to get out of this situation. I was completely alone at that point. I sat by myself every day during lunch. I was by myself. And if I wasn't, I was being really badly hurt by this girl. Like, day after day, it was miserable. So I did talk to my school a lot. I spoke a lot to the guidance counselor. I told her every single detail. Here's my personal opinion, and then here's what I found online. I think that because I disclosed all the information, I think that Anna should have been expelled. Nobody spoke to Anna until the last day of 10th grade, and this was going on for months. And the conclusion after talking to her on the last day was that she was gonna leave me alone next year. They knew the whole story. They knew she was cursing me out. They knew she was physically hurting me. They saw me cry day after day, and they didn't call her and they didn't talk to her. They didn't call her parents. I really believe she should have been expelled. I read online that expulsion has not found to be successful. So if that's just how I felt. Like, I was so hurt. I felt like she needed to be punished for how much she was hurting me. Remember, in 10th grade, you're like 15? Yeah. She was 15 years old. Like, there should have been some sort of consequence. If not expulsion, suspension, or like I said, some sort of consequence for her actions, and there wasn't any. So let me now move to that conversation on the last day of 10th grade. So I mentioned before that whole wild goose chase where it ended up in her just cursing me out. So the guidance counselor kind of called me into her office because once I realized that no one was doing anything about it, I was just like, no one's gonna help me. I tried getting switched out of school, but my parents and the guidance counselor and that teacher who's in charge of us and my principals had a conversation without me, and their conclusion was that I belong in this school. But I begged my parents to switch me out, and once that happened, I gave up. I figured, I'm stuck here for the next 2 years. You're just gonna be alone. And because of that, I became super depressed. If I wasn't studying, I was in my bed doing nothing every day. Crying. I did nothing. I did nothing. So that last day of school, my guidance counselor kind of just wanted to check in on me because I gave up. I didn't need to talk to anyone anymore, so I was quiet. And I told her the whole story, and she was shocked. She thought it was over. She thought that this wasn't happening anymore, but it was. Finally, she said she's calling that girl into her office, and I begged her not to because I was so scared of this girl. But now looking back, I wish she would have called that girl into her office sooner and done something about it sooner. I remember screaming at the guidance counselor, don't call her, don't bring her in. I couldn't. I didn't want to face her. I didn't. So we had this whole conversation, and my guidance counselor, I will never know if this story was true or not, but she told a very similar story to our situation where her daughter was going through something where this girl was bullying her daughter, she didn't use the term bullying, but was being mean to her daughter, and it came out that really she was just jealous of her daughter. And then this girl admitted that the reason she had been bullying me this whole time was because she was jealous of me. I don't remember all the details of the conversation, but yeah. The next year, I had no friends, but I wasn't being bullied. I did not make eye contact with this girl. I made sure to stay far away. Anytime there was a group project, I prayed that I would not be in her group. I remember I was in her group in a cooking class. We just didn't talk to each other. Like, so somewhere in middle of the year, closer to the end, we had this thing where we had meetings with teachers. We were supposed to talk to them about any topic. It's a much longer story than that, but it's not the point. I had decided that if I would get this specific teacher, I would tell her about a situation where something happened. So basically, the summer of 10th grade, I forgot to mention, I went to camp and I made friends there. And I'm so happy that my parents sent me to camp. I worked there, but that they urged me to go. I was able to make friends, which kind of did help me through 11th grade. Like, it wasn't like I had no friends, even though camp friends, you kind of don't keep in touch until camp starts again, but just to know that I wasn't completely alone, but I really didn't talk to anyone. So something happened at camp that I wanted to discuss with my teacher. And I said that if I get to talk to this specific teacher, that would be the topic that I would discuss. And of course I got that teacher. So during our conversation, she just mentioned, she's like, oh, by the way, why did you, like, you never went to camp before, like, why did you choose this camp, why did you go to camp? And I burst into tears. The reason I went to camp was because I had no friends. And she like said to, like, I can't thank her enough. She changed my life completely. She said, Toby, I love you. You're a great person, but you cannot be in this school anymore. And if it wasn't for her, I would not have gotten out. She like changed my life forever, like really changed my life forever. I'm so grateful to her. She helped, she set up a meeting with my parents and the school. The school literally called another school, got me into it, and basically told my parents, like, here's everything that has to be done. She's going here, she'll probably be accepted, this is when her interview is, and if it wasn't for that teacher, I would have been alone for a whole nother year. So now here's what I want to say to somebody who is dealing with being bullied or feeling alone. My first thing that I want to say, and if you're going through any situation, like, trust me, I went through it. I literally was miserable. I was depressed. It was terrible. Here's what I have to say to you. You're not alone, because if you feel like you're alone, there are people like me in this world who are here for you. Like, I'm giving you permission to reach out to me. Let me be your friend. Let me be there for you when you're going through such a hard time. Something else I want to say is, do your best to, well, you have to talk to someone. You have to. You cannot go through this alone. You need to tell somebody that this is happening to you. So do your best to collect your thoughts. Say everything. Put everything on the table. And so this way, whoever is helping you can help you in the best way possible, like in the way of your situation. Does that make sense? Number 3 is that you will get through this. Not everybody's going to be as lucky as I was to get to go to another school. In that other school, I had the best 12th grade of my life. I still have friends from then. They made me feel like so much a part of their family. Like, one story that just meant so much to me. In 11th grade, nobody told me happy birthday. And in 12th grade, they made a surprise party for me. And it was just, I cried. I was like, I didn't get this last year. You guys can actually go check it out on my Instagram, and you can even see how happy I was in the caption, like you can read it. But my point is, like, there is always an end to the tunnel. Like, if this is happening in your school, like, you will get out of that school. And if you speak up, maybe you'll be able to get out of the situation faster than you think you will. If this is happening at work, at home, there are ways to get out of that situation, and do your best to do so. As much as I'm urging bystanders to help, you can't expect it. So be your biggest advocate. Know that if nobody else is there for you, I am. Don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. You don't deserve to be hurt. Like, I don't care what excuse someone has to do it for you. Like, I don't care what you did. I don't care if you did something wrong. To be constantly, like, terrorized for anything, absolutely anything, is not okay. So my biggest piece of advice for you is to be your biggest advocate and learn to love yourself. I can't say that I did any of these things when I was going through that situation, but now I am, like, slowly starting to learn that if you love yourself and know your own self-worth, it won't matter to you what other people are doing, because you know you're good enough, and you are. I don't want the conversation to stop here. So here's kind of what I recommend, some advice that I have, just overall, is that I really think that schools should put in place should have an anti-bullying assembly. I feel that some people are just ignorant. They don't realize that a certain situation is a bullying situation. They don't realize that they need to be standing up for someone. Kind of like going over the signs of bullying, telling students that don't realize they could be helped, tell them what they can do to get help. Being bullied is serious. I personally got very depressed. I used to I think that I was the most sick that I ever was in, like, 10th and 11th grade. Like, I was always sick just to get out of school. Like, kids, sometimes it just becomes too much to deal with. So I think that schools need to put in place a system where students who are dealing with a situation like this know who they should speak to, and it's made into a normal situation. I think that teachers and faculty should be hyper aware to situations like this. There were situations in class where, like, this girl was sitting behind me and I couldn't take it anymore so much that I would just say something in class to her. I would turn around and say something. And, like, it wasn't illegible. Like, I was like, please stop kicking me. Please stop. Like, why are you throwing my books around? And then I would get yelled at for talking. So I think teachers should be listening more. Like, it's fine if you want to yell at me for talking. Like, I know that you have to set that precedent. But I think that teachers should have their ears open for situations like this and be like, wait, what was she saying? Let me try and figure out a situation to help her after class. Like, I think that teachers and faculty should just be hyper aware that situations like this are happening, not only in kindergarten and not only in elementary school and not only in middle school. It's happening in high schools, it's happening in the workplace, it's happening all over. So just to be hyper aware of these situations and making students that are dealing with these situations feel extra comfortable. I think that, like I said, personally, I wish that this Anna character would have been expelled. But I did find in my research that this isn't necessarily the best situation, but I've also found that a lot of schools don't have an anti-bullying policy, and so I highly urge schools to put one in place. As a student, if if you're not dealing with a situation like this, be hyper aware. If you see any sort of bullying situation, like, you should reach out to this person. There is power in numbers. There is one bully, usually. The more people that are on the person who is being bullied side, the more power that person has, and the more likely they will be able to overcome the situation. So bystanders, be aware, really make a difference. Like, I'm telling you, bystanders were part of, like, it's one thing for one person to hurt me, it's another thing for people to find it funny and entertaining. It destroyed me. Once I realized that, I was done. I was quiet. I couldn't anymore. Like, don't be the person who does that to someone else. Stand up for people. Do the right thing. And what I have to say to parents is to my parents really did the best they could in the situation based on guidance that they were given by other people. I feel like only now I realize that I wasn't articulating the situation as well as I should have to my parents. Had I told them more and been more honest with them, maybe they could have helped the situation better. And I say maybe because I really don't know. Maybe they would have been able to switch me out sooner if they realized how bad this situation was. So I'm just urging parents to look for signs that your child is being bullied. If your child comes home crying every night, make that child feel safe to open up and tell you all the details of the situation. Make them feel this person had was really bullying me for no reason. She had no actual thing to say to me. Like, she was just cursing me out. I don't remember her spreading rumors about me. But some people are dealing with situations where rumors are being spread about them. The things that this bully, let's say, has over them could actually be something that they're scared to tell other people. So make this person feel comfortable with sharing that with you. And just make your child feel like you are really going to give them what they feel is the best possible outcome. But again, I'll give you an example. My parents were like, who says switching schools would be any better? And I told them, I would rather be somewhere where I have no friends, but they're not doing anything to me, and be left alone, but I don't have to see these girls' faces anymore. Seeing that girl's face, she left me alone completely in 11th grade. Seeing her face every day, it killed me. Now, I'll go sometimes to a wedding or something and she'll be there, and I still feel the pain. I can't forgive her. So yeah, basically create a safe place and a safe space for your child to talk about what's going on at school. You don't know how it could affect them. You really don't. And of course, I don't have to say, but there are some serious outcomes that could come out of bullying. I think it's something that completely changed who I am today. And in both a good and bad way. I wish I never had to. I don't know. I don't know what life would have been like if I was never bullied, but for anyone who was, know that I am there for you. Literally, I am here for you. You have direct access to me. You know my Instagram handle, it's at Toby Boaz. You can, I think there's a YouTube Messenger. I am here for you, to talk to you, to be your friend if you have no other ones. Let's make a difference. Let's not let there be any more stories. So thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope that you took the time to hear me out and understand that this is a serious situation that happens constantly. I did read statistically it is going down, the amount of bullying in schools, but doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So let's try to make some change. Thank you so much for listening.